Okay, so today we've got the Mighty 200 series. You've heard all the hype about the Donaldson Airboxes. We've got one here today. We're going to unbox it, show you what's inside of it, and run down start to finish and how to install it. So let's unwrap it and see what's inside. So what's in the box? Let's run through it. The first thing you're going to see is the air cleaner housing here. We've got the air filter here, and you can see the mounting brackets. The most important thing, fitting instructions, colour picture instructions, decent size as well, so they're good. We'll run through that, exactly what you need to fit it, and also your fitting kit, everything inside here you're going to need to get it in your vehicle. Okay, so the tools you need for the job: 10mm socket, a 13mm socket, a 3/8 extension bar, 3/8 ratchet, 3mm Allen key, and a medium size Phillips screwdriver. Okay, so we've got all the tools for the job. The last thing before we start the job is to check the contents list of the instructions versus everything that's come out of the box so we can finish the job. All right, so let's get into it. Oh, hang on, this is the back of the car. We're gonna go to the front. Locate front of vehicle. Ah, here we are. Okay, so air cleaner box right at the front of the vehicle. It's located on the driver's side, front section here. This is all the factory pipe work. But the tip I want to tell you before you start this job is engine off, and obviously cold is best to work on it. And most importantly, that there's no dust or dirt around the intake pipes that we're going to take off here, because you don't want dust ingression getting in the intake system. So make sure that is all clean and tidy. And also that the area that we're going to mount the airbox to is free. There's no extra cabling, battery cables, other accessories mounted in the way, and it's not going to fit. So just check that before you progress to fitting it in the vehicle. Okay, so we are going to use another tool that isn't in the instructions. That's a little flat blade screwdriver. We're just going to unpick this little wiring connector. So you're just going to put it in there, and it's going to lift up like so. And then we're going to disconnect the airflow meter connector. So you just pinch that with your thumb and forefinger, and you will see the connector undoes. Just want to be careful with these. Obviously it's an expensive sensor, so you don't want to break it, so a bit of care to be taken there. Next we are going to unclip the airbox top lid. So there's a clip here, over here, down the back, down here, and one more at the front. And then we can lift up the top of the airbox, pull out the factory filter. This one's actually not too bad. Hasn't seen a lot of red dust or anything like that. Obviously it's been changed. Next we're going to get the 10mm socket and undo the two clamps that hold the intake pipe. So this one here and here. Little tip as well with these clamps, you don't want to undo them too much, because they can start to fall apart on you. Little washer on them. These ones are okay. You'll see here you just don't want it to dislodge. Sometimes if it has been around a lot of dust and dirt, a little bit of spray on the threads just so they don't bind up. So we are going to take out the airflow meter out of the top of the airbox and fit it to the Donaldson Airbox. That's one thing we are going to do. So now the airbox lid's out of the way, we're just going to remove the ducting. Good thing to have a bit of a look down here as well. As you can see the ducting, check out how dirty it really is. Give that a clean as well, probably see a little bit better down here. You are going to get some residue of dust and dirt, some staining in there if it has been used in the real world conditions, and hence why we're upgrading the air filter. Pros and cons to putting a rag in the intake system and capping it off so that you don't get any dust in there. The pro is that dust isn't going to get in there, you've got the rag, it's blocking it off. The con is that what can happen is someone comes along, doesn't know you're working on the vehicle, starts the car, and it ends up getting sucked into the engine. So that's a precaution you might want to think about before you do it or don't do it. I'll leave that one up to you. So we're just going to undo the 10mm that hold the airbox down, front guard here. There's another one down behind the second battery towards the engine down here, and one over the back of the airbox as well. Only little M6 threads, so you'll see I'm using hand tools. Look, you can use cordless powered tools or lithium powered tools, whatever you want to call them. Just want to be careful that when you do them back up, that you actually don't over tighten them and damage nuts and bolts. I've seen people get too carried away with something. They're unsure of the strength of how good the gun really is. There is one connector down here as well that this earth lead is strapped to, so you will just need to unclip that. So you'll see down here we've got one more little body clip that's holding the earth wiring harness to the airbox. Just need to dislodge that so the airbox can come out easily. So we've now removed the airbox, the base of the airbox from the vehicle, and we're going to prep the new Donaldson Airbox to go back in the vehicle. So new airbox, you would have noticed that the air filter is out of it. The one thing you want to check, new parts, you want to fully pull them apart, make sure there's no packaging, bits of plastic or anything untowards in there before you go to fit it to your vehicle, because the last thing you want to do is start it up and suck in a piece of plastic or something that's on the wrong side of the air cleaner. So just check all that before you go to fit it. So the air cleaner just slides in easy. You'll see the sealing surface on both sides of the air filter. Just want to slide it in, make sure it's sitting nice and easy. Now the lid has two locating tabs at the bottom. They locate into here at the bottom, and then they lever over on them, and you've got two snap clips. So care needs to be taken as well that it is plastic, that you're not forcing anything. And then literally you'll see the over center cam locks, snaps on like that. When you want to service it, you can disconnect it like that. So, and we are ready to start fitting off our airflow meter here as well. So on the inlet of the airbox, you're going to notice this little hole here. In the fitting kit, you get a little weighting plug. We need to fit that little guy into that hole. The easiest way is just to push it in, and then you can just grab it from the other side and just help it through. So you just want to be careful you don't damage it, and put him in there. So the next step is to mount the lower bracket to the bottom of the airbox before we fit it to the vehicle, and we're going to do that with these guys right here. So we've just prepped the bolts with the spring washers, then the flat washers. So that's the way around they go. If you're unsure, spring washer first, flat washer. There is 4 bolts that bolt this bracket to the bottom of the airbox. Now, what I want to show you is the 4 holes. Rest assured, the bracket will only go one way, so that's really good from an engineering point of view. You can't get it wrong, and it doesn't have index lines to show you which way it goes, or say front or left side. So you can't get it wrong, it'll only go one way. So this is where we're going to use our 13mm socket on our ratchet to tighten these bolts up. Once again too, I probably wouldn't recommend using an impact gun on a high torque setting. They are just nutserts into plastics. It's not a steel box where it's welded in, so you can damage it if you over tighten it. So the mounts as well, you'll notice here the airbox comes with rubber mounts already, and we've obviously got bolts here to mount it back into the vehicle, so you don't need to reuse the factory ones. So the last bracket with the 2 holes, it does face down, so it goes down, the lower mount comes down this way. This bracket can be flipped around the other way, but obviously it's not going to bolt anything there, so just when you do bolt it on, it's pretty straightforward, but just thought I'd mention it. And when you're fixing it, you're going to use the other 2 M8 bolts with the spring washers and flat washers to mount that on there when you fit it in the vehicle. So we're going to remove the factory MAF sensor out of the top of the original airbox, so it's just a Phillips screwdriver. Undo it nicely. Just be careful with this sensor. Are expensive if you damage them. The other thing too, if the vehicle's been in service for a while and it has had a bit of dust ingression, might be a good time to see about giving it a little bit of a clean with some MAF sensor cleaner. I wouldn't recommend cleaning it with anything that isn't MAF sensors, so you can see light dust contamination through the sensor, if you can see that there. You can get a contact cleaner specifically for MAF sensors. I'd recommend using that as well. So the airflow meter, traditionally air comes through the airflow meter, it meters the amount of air going into the engine. Good thing to see here is they've actually made that is the correct way. Obviously air coming towards the engine goes into the airflow meter. It's really good that obviously Toyota and themselves have done it so that you can't get it the wrong way around. It would be a bit of a rookie mistake mounting it backwards. So quick little tip, obviously you can't get it wrong on this vehicle, but on other vehicles sometimes you can. One thing I don't not like it, but I'm not a huge fan of if it's put into the wrong hands. These little Allen key bolts to do it up. Factory they used Phillips head screwdriver. Obviously the torque that you can apply with a screwdriver doing it up is far less than if someone gets an Allen key on here and you know, goes all the way He-Man on it, so to say, and over tightens it. So I would recommend if you're doing this up here, use this end of the Allen key and just there, it's enough. All you need to do is just seat the airflow meter down, don't over torque it. And then start the thread by hand. Never want to start it with a tool because you don't want to damage cross-threading the tool. Obviously you can see I'm just spinning it down by hand and it's going in nice and easy. Job done. Airflow meter is in. Okay, so we've got the foam strip from the fitting kit. With the instructions, it's not 100% clear what you need to do with it, but if we look here at the factory airbox, you'll see the air intake to the airbox has got a foam strip around it. Where that seals to is the inner guard, and obviously on the same, on the Donaldson, on the intake as well, it's going to stick around here and meet up nicely here. You only need to fit this if you are going to just fit it up to the factory intake. If you've got a snorkel, obviously you're going to have a silicone hose or some sort of connector with a hose clamp so it's all watertight. So you only need to use this if you're going to the factory guard. So where the airbox slides to in the vehicle is in here, and the foam seal obviously helps seal the airbox to the inner guard. So sticking it on, we've cleaned the surface. We're just going to go right around the edge. It's going to meet up around the bottom. Obviously it's just to prevent a bit of dust. It still isn't a raised air intake or anything like that. It's not watertight. It's just purely to try and help seal it so it's sucking from the original place in the guard. Once again, mentioned it earlier, don't forget this rag and put the pipe on. So we can take that out and we can put the factory pipe on. We've got that sitting there ready to go. We're just going to get the airbox and start securing it into the vehicle. Okay, so it's time to get the airbox in. We've got the foam on there. Just going to locate the foam in there. Just shift this wiring down here as well. And I've lifted up this intake pipe to the engine, just slightly rotated it, just so I can line it up and get both the inner guard to line up with the foam and I'm not caught on anything, and then also lining up here as well, and then just rotate and it should just nicely fall into line. And then look down the front here and you'll see the holes line up, and same thing on the back mounting position. Okay, so this little bag here has the M6, the long bolts. This is going to secure the airbox to the inner guard. So you're going to put the spring washer on first, then the flat washer. There's 3 of them. But you'll also notice on the bench next to me that I've also got this bracket and I haven't installed it yet. The instructions do say to install it before you put it in the airbox. However, you've noticed how I've put it in the car. It's pretty easy. This bracket sits on last, 2 bolts on here and on the guard. And the reason is when I'm sliding the airbox in to get to the snorkel clamp or the foam, I can have a visual on it and I can get to it a lot easier. And this is really easy to fit later. So we'll show you in a second how to fit it. So off with a 13mm, 10mm socket. Let's get these 6mm in there. Okay, I've just nipped all these bolts down by hand. Little tweak with a ratchet. Once again, M6 bolts. Don't need to go to town on them. They're just holding an airbox in. They're not holding the bull bar on, so not too tight. This is the last bracket we're going to put on that I talked about at the bench earlier. This guy here is really simple now to sit up and put on. And when I was talking about if I did have a snorkel and I had a hose clamp around here, you'd have to make sure the clamp is around here and you can't visually see as well with the bracket in the way. And it's, as you can see, it's quite easy to put on now. So it's a bit of a personal preference, but I prefer to put it on last. Once again, I've started all the bolts before I've gone down and tightened anything up, just to make sure I've located everything, because there is a little bit of play in the bracketry. And there you have it. The airbox is in the vehicle, all mounted, secured. And now we just need to connect the MAV sensor. Simply just click that back on there. I'm going to rotate this around, check the pipes line up, and then obviously over here as well, do these back up in a position that we can get a screwdriver, Phillips if you are on the side of the road, or a 10mm as well to get to them. So check they're all up nice and tight. Okay, something cool with this airbox is they give you an air filter service indicator. So what that is it measures the restriction of the air the engine's asking to deliver versus how restrictive the air filter is. And what you'll see on here is there's a little indicator. It will come up with a red line indicating that the serviceability of the air filter has come to the end of its life, and obviously an indication of vacuum that's on it as well. So to check it, you can simply just apply a bit of vacuum to it, and you'll see there's a red mark indicating that the filter needs replacing. And then you'll see around here as well, as it comes up to where it needs replacing, you can see obviously a percentage of how restrictive it is. To reset it, pretty much hit that, it goes back to 0. So you want to make sure when it's new, you've zeroed it out, and then literally thumb and forefinger. Just be careful when you screw it on. It is a plastic test indicator for the air filter efficiency. Don't want to swing it too hard and crack the fitting. And then just be careful with that. Zero it out once again. Look, if someone does hit it in service, as soon as you're driving the vehicle and the filter's partially blocked or what have you, or unserviceable, it's going to indicate back up. So it's not like if someone does happen to hit it by accident, that it's only once per air filter, so you don't have to stress about that either. So that's pretty much a wrap up for the PowerCore air filter box installation in the 200 series. Once again, lastly, just check any fittings or anything you've touched, make sure it's all tight and secured. Obviously go for a road test with the vehicle, check, make sure there's no vibrations or anything unusual going on with the vehicle, and you're ready to go away, and your vehicle is protected from dust ingression into your 200 series for many years to come. And there is a very long service life on this filter as well. I hope you like this video. If you think this product's for you, get in touch with us today. If you want more information, jump on our online store on the website, check it all there, or get in touch with us and we can help you out.